Welcome to this episode of Our Voices, Our Hopes. I am joined by Carla Hassan, my friend and Chief Marketing Officer of Citi. Welcome, Carla. We're so happy to have you join us today.
I am so glad to be here, Rita. Thank you so much for asking me to do this.
Awesome. So I'm going to start with a question that I think is going to be fascinating for our viewers. Tell us about your experiences as an immigrant and as an Arab woman. How have these experiences shaped your identity and your leadership style?
Oh, Rita, it's such a good question for me, particularly as I think about my journey and my career. And, coming from a family that fled two countries to escape wars, my experience as an immigrant and as an Arab inherently shapes me, not just as a person, but as a marketer and also as a leader. And, I am a woman of color. I consider myself a woman of color, and I've grown up a woman of color. But to many, I may not look that way, or even sound like I'm from somewhere else, quite frankly. And when I first moved to the US, I used that and leaned into it as an advantage in a way for me to be able to assimilate to the culture here. But I woke up one day and I felt like a little bit of an imposter. And I just learned how powerful it is to be able to see and value all of the experiences that make a person who they are. And, ever since then, I would tell you that I've been on a mission to be authentically who I am, because today I can't leave parts of who I am behind and close the door and, walk into work and decide that I'm somebody totally different. And nor do I think anybody else should, because I realized the impact that it had on me for years while I was doing that. And I talk to my daughter all the time about authenticity. I want her and other young people to really see themselves represented and know the incredible power that comes with being true to themselves. So for me, all of these experiences have really helped me understand human connection, and that goes beyond just the sort of person I am. It goes to the kind of leader I am. And so empathy and authenticity and vulnerability, all of those things play huge roles in the leader that I am and in the way that I try to lead my teams, because the reality is setting a vision is critical, right? You have to set a vision, and strategy is critical, table stakes for the jobs we do. But how you extract the most value from your team and how you have them come together to accomplish objectives that we have, that's even more important. And I think that is driven by humanity. So for me, it's really, really important. And all of the stuff that, my journey to get here and my resilience and my, how I've sort of made it to where I am has really helped color the kind of leader I am. It really is all of who I am that I bring to my leadership day in and day out.
That's awesome. And talking about leadership, you've been a leader in brand marketing for several years now. How has the notion of multicultural marketing changed, and why is it so important now?
But the biggest change, I would say, Rita, is that now I think it's pretty widely understood that all marketing should be multicultural marketing. I remember the days when we would say, we're going to do marketing and then we're going to have multicultural agencies or a different, multicultural platform, if you will. I think that's important to be able to focus on certain constituents for sure. But I do think that when we think about our marketing, everyone deserves to see themselves represented and know the power, I think, that comes with being authentically themselves. And so, when we create work, whether it's, creating advertisements or any kind of content that we have, it has to portray a diverse set of people as we are represented in the US, or quite frankly, even in the world. Media representation as well, that can transform societal perceptions and have, I think, profound impact. So, that doesn't though negate the fact that we need to talk to and understand how to talk to different constituents differently, right? Because even if I think about myself as an Arab woman, my needs and insights around me might be different than the Latinx community, might be different than the Black community, for example.
You talked a lot about the domain of multicultural marketing being previously in specialty agencies, if you will. What are the imperatives now for marketers and their agencies to be effective in multicultural marketing?
This is not unique to multicultural marketing, and I would say this is table stakes. But let's all start with making sure that we have cross-functional, diverse teams that are represented around the table when we are building campaigns or when we're having any kind of conversation from a marketing perspective. And so, oftentimes throughout my career, I've walked into a room and I've kind of looked to the right and to the left and sometimes thought and sometimes actually said, wait a minute, don't tell me I'm the only woman in this room, or don't tell me that I'm the only person of color in this room. It's impossible, right? Because how do we get to work that feels representative and feels multicultural without actually having all those voices represented at the table, all those voices thinking about that work in and of itself? And so I think it's just really important that let's start there, right? Before we think about anything else, whether you're talking to a specific multicultural agency that specializes, or whether you're talking to agency partners and media partners. Let's start with, how do we think about our teams and how are we represented, and do we represent everybody and all of our constituents? That's number one. The other thing I would say, and this is one thing that is probably not as used as we should, as utilized as we should, but all of us are in companies where we have employee resource groups. And so from my perspective, it's critical to tap into those folks, right? So you've got a whole bunch of colleagues of mine that sit in an employee resource group for the Black community, and shame on me if I'm creating work that is specific and important to that community, but I'm not talking to them and asking for their perspectives before we get that work out. So it's a small thing, but you look internally, right? Before you actually start looking externally, look internally to your own people. They are a great source of recommendation and they're a great source of ideation. And I'll give you an example. Our racial equity work is a prime example of that, right? It is hard to talk about race and it is uncomfortable at times. But I think, it's true when you're talking about any big topic, right? Particularly when you're talking about how to be an anti-racist organization and when you're advocating for an advertisement, for example, like our Black Lives Matter spot. And, but when we don't talk about it and when we don't enroll people that are deeply, deeply inherently touched by the work that we're doing, we keep becoming we are a part of the problem. So from my perspective, we kept pushing for it. We enrolled our Black colleagues. We talked to them about, the nuances in the spot and in the campaign. What should we say? What shouldn't we say? And ultimately, after having all of these conversations, the creation that comes to life is a beautiful, beautiful campaign that touches on the things that are important to that community. So I think it's really important to, again, have representation internally and externally, but make sure you're also using the resources that are available to you that can help you before you put a campaign out the door.
Yeah, it's so smart. The people who are consumers who best know our brands. I mean, it's a win-win.
That's right.
So on that point, tell us what you are doing at Citi to promote racial equality and how you see your role at Citi in this area.
Yeah, Rita, we've heard the calls for racial justice echoing across the country in the last year, and quite frankly before that, but the last year since the murder of George Floyd. And it's really clear to us that more of the same is just not going to be good enough, right? Words can be really promising, but they don't mean anything if they don't result in tangible action. And so at Citi, we have been taking a really, really hard look at our own policies and practices, and to make sure that we are actively identifying, eliminating bias, and making sure that as a company, we understand the issues and that we respond to the issues and the needs of the communities we serve. And so recently, several months ago, we announced more than $1 billion in strategic initiatives to help close the racial wealth gap and increase economic mobility in the US. And we've coined it our Action for Racial Equity. So that's the platform that brings all of these initiatives together. And it really is a comprehensive approach. It's one that I'm really proud of. And it's going to provide greater access to banking and credit in communities of color. It's going to increase investment in Black-owned businesses, and it's going to expand home ownership among Black America, which is at its lowest rate ever. And so we are really, really excited, and I certainly am proud of it. But as part of the effort, we're not stopping at just the business pieces as as well, we're also asking all of our advertising, our marketing, and our communications agency partners to join us in making important commitments to diversify not only the people that they are hiring and that we are hiring, but quite frankly, the ecosystem around us, right? So how can we, when we are going to shoot something, how can we think about the entire ecosystem, not just our own people? So how can we make sure that we are giving makeup artists who are people of color the opportunity to be, in our campaigns? And how do we think about craft services very differently? That's the ecosystem I'm talking about. We have the opportunity to really change beyond even our businesses and beyond our agency partners. And so, from my perspective, we really try to keep every touch point that we can. We're trying to be as deliberate as possible, not just in our marketing and branding efforts, but certainly in our campaigns and our media and how we're buying our media, but certainly in the entire ecosystem with all of our partners.
That's amazing. So changing it a little bit, obviously you're an incredible and very well-known CMO, but you are also a woman of color and a mom. What are your hopes for the future and how do you hope to accomplish that?
Well, Rita, look, as with so many aspects of my life, when I think about the future, my inspiration really comes from my daughter, Noor. And I know you and your daughter are very close as well. And I know you draw a tremendous amount of inspiration from her. Noor is really my source of strength. And I'm deeply, deeply passionate about doing my part to create a better future for her and for all of those, quite frankly, who come after me, being in this business a long time. And I really long for the day that everybody sees themselves represented and knows that they have a fighting chance and understands the incredible power that comes with being authentically themselves. And so I really, really want to be a champion of that. And I'm just grateful that I work at a firm like Citi where, we are looking also at the road ahead and we are trying to drive progress, and, that the mission of the firm is so deeply entrenched with my own values. And so as we think about, the platforms we have to talk about gender equality and racial equality and ESG, and those I think are going to remain, at the top of my priorities, because quite frankly, I feel like I have a responsibility now that I have this platform and I have a firm that is so dedicated to the same things that I am, to make this world really a better place, to provide more opportunities. And the reality is, Rita, and you know this, you live it every day, people are looking for businesses to step up and to be part of the solutions. And we just have such an incredible platform to be able to do that. So for me, it really is about continuing that mission. It's about bringing humanity and soul to business and how we put those two things together, because I really do believe that is what's going to drive business moving forward, is looking at the broader picture and asking ourselves, why do we exist? What are we here for? And how can we make this world a much, much better place for our daughters and for people that come after us, in addition to driving the business, right? So ultimately, that is what I would love to do, moving, as we look to the future.
It's always such a pleasure to hear from you, Carla. Thank you for always being such an authentic leader and voice in this space.
Thank you, Rita.
And thanks to everyone for watching this episode of Our Voices, Our Hopes, a series produced by BTV for the benefit of the Boys and Girls Club of Puerto Rico. I hope you will join Disney in supporting this wonderful organization and visit bgcpr.org. Thank you.